very excited to get started with the season here on November 12th in our opening Wolves Bus Lines tip-off tournament. We've had a very good preseason this year. For the most part, we've been able to stay injury-free. We're still right now missing two of our possible starters in Dana Wirt and Caitlin Bamberger, but the good news is we should definitely have both of those two players for the opening tournament. The girls came back and worked very hard through the preseason in terms of getting in shape and getting a little bit stronger. Our first 9 practices, we've had a great effort, great intensity, great attitude out on the floor. We've got more in these first 9 practices this season than we have probably in the last 3 years. So we're very excited to get started. We started last night and had a scrimmage and did fairly well. It's going to be a different team look this year. The last 2-3 years we've been pretty much 1-2 player reliant in terms of Casey Gardner, our senior that graduated last year, being our leading scorer and one of our leading rebounders, and obviously Lauren Beckley from a few years ago. We've got a lot more balance to the team offensively this year. We look for some pretty even scoring with the Wirt twins, Dana and Shauna. Sarah had an outstanding start last night in our scrimmage against Bowie State. Monet Baker, now pretty healthy and working to get in shape, can add a double-digit scorer, double-digit rebounder out on the floor. Caitlin Bamberger still trying to get her feet under her, but she also has the potential to, score in the double digits and be a strong presence down low. So we're going to have a lot more balance, hopefully scoring, a lot more people to look to. If somebody's struggling, somebody else is going to pick it up. And defensively, also with the return of Morgan Taylor coming off sitting last year with her elbow injury, and the Wirt twins and Sarah and Codi McMaster's here, we've got a lot of speed at the guard position, so we're going to look to get out and put a little bit more full court pressure on our opponents this year and take advantage of our speed and our defensive presence and hopefully be able to create some offense out of our defense. So we're really looking forward to get started. We have 2 more scrimmages, a big one coming up here on Saturday against Holy Family, who's a nationally ranked team. So that should give us a better understanding of what we've got to prepare for as we come into our opening tournament weekend.
So you talked a little bit about that balance. How does that help, not having to rely on 1 or 2 players and being able to, rely on more than that and the bench too?
Yeah, although it's hard to replace players like a Casey Gardner or Lauren Beckley out on the floor, sometimes the team tends to always look for them to make the big plays and they sort of sit back. Now we've got a group, right now we don't have that forefront all-star that's going to put up 20 a game for us. So every game we've come into, or every scrimmage, every practice, we've had a lot of different people stepping up at different times, and it gets a lot more people involved and they get a little bit more excited to play with each other. We've seen a lot more ball movement and pushing the ball up the floor, and a little bit more trust in each other that, hey, we've got to get out here and sort of make up some statistical differences that we're going to lose from not having Casey in the lineup, both offensively and defensively. And one day when one person's been struggling, then somebody completely different out of the blue comes out, and from the coaching staff we sort of go, all right, this is a really good sign as we head into the season and into games, whereas opponents aren't going to be able to go, hey, you stop Casey Gardner, you're going to stop Ship, or you stop Casey and Lauren and you're going to stop Ship. It's going to be a decision they're going to have to make. Can we contain Shauna Wirt and Dana Wirt and stop Sarah Strybuc off the dribble, and then when we step in the paint to help with a Monet Baker and a Bamberger and a Lindsay Howard, can we also close out and stop their 3-point shooters? So hopefully as we've prepared our new offenses and things this season, we're going to create different looks that are going to make it very difficult for them to be able to focus on one person.
With the loss of Casey Gardner and Lauren a couple years ago, has that shifted any way that you coach offensively now and defensively with different personnel on the floor? I know you talked about different options to score. Has that changed anything offensively of how you guys are going to line up and execute the offense?
Well, offensively, we've sort of waited because we have had a few injuries here and there. We are a little thin in the post positions, and a lot of our offenses are set up for the balance between getting it inside and then kicking it out. So we've had to start to look also at making sure we're putting things in that are going to open up the floor for our penetration lanes, but still give us the opportunity to have our post solid on the block. So we haven't really changed a lot of the offenses from the last 2 years. We've just tried to tweak them a little bit. We knew we had to throw in a lot more ball screening opportunities for our quick guards like Shauna, Dana, Sarah, Codi, and Morgan Taylor, but also have within those offenses the ability to keep a Monet Baker down on the block so she can go to work when defenses step out on the perimeter, as well as Caitlin Bamberger and Lindsay Howard. So that's sort of, we're trying to prepare for more balance, but we're also looking to have situations where we can isolate based on whatever our opponent's going to do. I mean, probably in the East we're going to see more opponents that will match up better with us guard-wise, because the East teams tend to be a lot more smaller and quicker. When we play the West teams that now are going to count towards playoffs, we also have those options to look to go down inside and be able to battle with their bigger players as well. Defensively, you know, last year we were able to start to create some things with our three-quarter court press. Now that we have Morgan Taylor back as well off of her injury, we've got a lot more defensive presence, a lot more speed, so we are going to try to come out and do, maybe extend it a little bit more and create some things in the full court. So I think we're probably more deep in our guard spots, and defensively we'll do a lot more towards that, offensively as well.
How has Taylor looked since coming back from the injury?
Surprisingly, you know, she hasn't played basketball in about a year and a half, and she's, from the coach's standpoint, a little bit further ahead than we would have expected her to be at this point. There's still some rust she's going to have to shake off, but she did a pretty good job handling the ball, being able to distribute it. It's just going to take her a little time, because basically she still is a freshman on the floor. She only played in, I think, 9 games her first year. So there's going to be some turnovers, there's going to be some mistakes, but just her effort out on the floor has made up for things and absolutely gives us a different dynamic.
Codi, you want to expand upon what your coach said about, you know, the changes this year, not having like a lead scorer to go to and now being a team effort now?
Not like having a lead scorer, like we all are able to shoot. So when we execute, set hard screens, it's real easy to get open. So hopefully, like by executing and setting hard screens, we'll be able to shoot easier that way.
And the group's been talking a lot amongst themselves about not one person's ever going to be able to come in and replace the people that you lose, but as a team, as they all get more experience and sort of bump up their stats, maybe group-wise we'll be able to sort of encompass the 20 points a game we'll be losing or the 8 rebounds, and we have a lot of options to do that.
Codi, can you talk a little bit about the team aspect of, you know, how you guys are meshing so far in practice, how you're looking for, you know, you said you had the scrimmage last night. How's the team working together?
I think the team's working like really well together coming in this year. We're doing a lot of like reading our defense and like being able to see where we can get open spots rather than just going through the play and going through the motions, which is really good. And that's like helping us see that we are a team and we can play together.
Coach, having the Words twins who, you know, probably played together for quite some time, how does that familiarity between those two, you know, come to the floor, and how do you kind of see that?
Sometimes it plays very well for them, and sometimes it doesn't. Like Dana has not been able to practice with us yet, and I think that affected Shauna out on the floor last night in our scrimmage. But when those two are working together, they create so many opportunities offensively, not only for each other, but for the rest of the team. They're so competitive that you sort of have to get to know them as teammates to sort of understand, you know, out on the floor their frustrations and the things that they do well together, and get used to it. But they give us such a good 1-2 punch. They both can penetrate, they both can hit the three, and they're both extremely good passers. But probably even more than that is their ability to lock down defensively.
Sarah or Codi, one of you can take this one. I just wanted to know, you know, being ranked 5th, you guys are kind of in the preseason rankings, you're a middle of the road team. You guys feel like you're a middle of the road team, or like how do you guys, you know, approach this season? Is that motivating to you guys to be 5th?
I feel like people are going to underestimate us because we're so balanced and we don't have that like stick out player. So I think that we are going to take that as like motivation to like show people that we are better than what they think we are.
Coach, could you talk a little bit this year with the dynamic of having all of the Western Division games counts towards the actual PSAC standings, and also in that same aspect, the schedule kind of being pushed a little bit earlier with the PSAC games, really like the second week of the season with the crossovers. Is that any different of an approach getting ready, heading into the early season, knowing that those PSAC games are starting to come right off the bat, and just that dynamic in general?
Well, I mean, I am one of the coaches who felt we needed to have the crossovers count. If you're playing the games, they should count for whether you get in. And I have the unique situation of having played in both divisions now since we were in the Western Division. The only thing about throwing those West games in that early is you have to really have a sense of urgency of being on top of it. Like I said, we're 9 practices in, and we're 3 weeks away from facing an IUP or a Cal. So it sort of changes your approach and the urgency of what you really need to work on right away, because your third game of the season could make or break whether you get into the playoffs or not. I'm really happy that the conference finally decided to start heading towards more of a conference feel with our tournament, and there's some other changes hopefully we hope come down the line. But I'm excited to play everybody in the West again. Like I said, we had a very good tradition when we were in the Western Division, and we're sort of hoping that that's going to help us get into that fourth, third, or second spot that we've had elude us the last 3 years. So if we can pick up some of the wins, even the ones we had last year, we feel very confident it could be beneficial to Shippensburg having the experience of both divisions. But you really have to be on your game to be prepared much earlier, because, like I said, our third and fourth game are going to be against, two of the top teams in the Western Division. But I'm very excited about that challenge. I'm also very excited about, going in and facing Bloomsburg again. We're the only team that beat them last season. And Millersville, having everybody back, is going to be a formidable opponent. I think there's going to be a lot more balance in the East than maybe we're expecting. And I wasn't disappointed that we were fifth. I pretty much figured that's where they were going to rate us. I think we're better than fifth. I think even though losing the player that we lost, we've now come together pretty strong as a team and have people healthy that we didn't have, that could have complemented us last year with a Casey Gardner. So I think we're going to be underestimated a little bit because we basically are going to be relying on all of our returning players. And I think that gives the other coaches a little false sense of security in what they're going to see from Ship. I think we're going to be a whole different look than what we've been, and I really feel we're a team that's going to make the playoffs this season.